A subtext shows that in retaliation to the 9/11 terror attacks, the U.S. sent 1,300 troops to Afghanistan. 10 years later, the number had increased to 98,000. The soldiers enlisted the help of 50,000 Afghanistan locals to act as interpreters in exchange for special immigration visas and relocation to America. In March 2018, U.S. Army Special Forces Master Sergeant John Kinley led his unit on patrolling vehicles passing near the border. The team is suspicious of a particular truck when they see the driver tense. The driver is asked to open the truck, but he runs away. A few minutes later, a bomb inside the truck detonates, eliminating John's friend and an interpreter. His friend's demise saddens John, but he needs to hire another interpreter. He travels to the military base and meets several potential candidates. After vetting, John decides to take Ahmed Abdullah as a replacement. Ahmed is a poor mechanic who agrees to work with the Americans for the money. John's team aims to find the Taliban factory that manufactures improvised explosive devices. A lead takes the team to a suspicious building. However, John is visibly disappointed to learn that the house is a drug addict's sanctuary. The unit got another lead, and the other interpreter suggested that the team use an alternate route as a downpour washed away the common one. On the way, Ahmed gets into an argument with John as he feels the group should reconsider the route. John stops the cars and has a few soldiers map the area. The soldiers find no one around, but Ahmed accosts the other interpreter. The man reveals that the Taliban had captured his family, so he was being coerced to lead the soldiers to a trap. An aerial survey of the area shows that the team was minutes away from an ambush. Back at the base, John learns that Ahmed joined the U.S. Army after the Taliban executed his son. He and his brother used to deal drugs to the Taliban for survival. John develops a great deal of respect for Ahmed but warns him against disobeying his orders again. Later, he voices his frustration regarding the border restrictions to his superior, Colonel Vokes. Vokes implies that if John wants to go past the borders, he discreetly can. Another officer, Sergeant O'Brady, gives John a picture saying the man in the picture light has valuable information. John's unit kidnaps the man and asks what he knows of the factory. However, the man, who is a drug dealer, starts threatening to harm Ahmed and his family. Ahmed gives the man money and interacts with him without interpreting word for word. Eventually, the man reveals 2 locations to different factories. He also shares that different parts of the IEDs are made in different places and then assembled. The team assembles and heads out to investigate one of the factories 62 miles north of Bagram Air Base. They quickly eliminate the insurgents in the area, but a spy sees them and calls the leader for reinforcements. John and Ahmed venture inside the factory and execute 3 insurgents, torturing a local while waiting for backup. The group is attacked by approaching Taliban reinforcements. Sadly, most of John's team falls to the enemy, leaving him and Ahmed. The 2 steal a truck and drive away, with John dealing with any enemies that follow them. Eventually, one of the truck's tires gets a puncture, so the 2 abandon the vehicle and proceed on foot. Backup arrives at the factory, but John and Ahmed are too far away to be rescued. The Taliban leader sends more people after the 2. After walking cautiously for a while, John discovers that their radios have no signal, meaning that they are far from the base. The 2 spend a night in the woods, hoping to find their way back to the base. In the morning, John wakes Ahmed, and they depart slowly since the enemies are drawing closer. The 2 encounter 2 insurgents in a canyon, causing them to exchange gunfire. This alerts the other Taliban fighters to their location. Ahmed and John seek refuge in a house, but the fighters get there. They shoot John severally and then knock him out with a rifle's butt. Luckily, Ahmed sneak attacks the soldiers. He steals their truck and hides John in the back as he intends to travel through the main routes. Ahmed is stopped by several fighters who ask for a ride. He agrees and is lucky when the fighters leave without seeing John in the back. Ahmed reaches a small kiosk by the roadside. He exchanges the truck for a few things, including some pain-relieving medicine for John. He gets a 2-wheeled cart to ferry John along the treacherous mountainous route to the airbase. The journey is strenuous as John draws in and out of consciousness. At night, he wakes up screaming in pain, so Ahmed tries to offer solace where he can. One day, Ahmed spots the airbase from a distance and realizes that they are close. Ahmed and John reach another roadside shop near the airbase. Unfortunately, their presence is detected by some Taliban fighters. One of the fighters sees John's feet uncovered from the blanket, prompting Ahmed to shoot him and his comrades. The gunfire brings U.S. troops to the area. They quickly arrest Ahmed, mistaking him for a Taliban fighter due to his disguise. However, they release him once they see John and understand what has happened. 7 weeks later, John is in Santa Clarita, California, having recuperated from his wounds. He tries to have an everyday life with his wife and kids, but something seems to be lacking in his life. O'Brady visits John, and the two catch up. However, John is deeply saddened to realize that Ahmed is still in Afghanistan. He was not given a visa as promised and now has to hide underground from the Taliban fighters after him. Ahmed's rescue of John had become a local famous story, so the Taliban desperately wanted to execute him for being a sympathizer. John calls his superiors and anyone else he can think of regarding Ahmed's visa to no avail. He is constantly put on hold for long hours. Days turn into months, and John finally gets a response. He is informed that for Ahmed's visa to be approved, he must undergo a background check, which will take 3 months. This infuriates John so much that he ends up cursing and destroying the things in his vicinity. The disappointment takes a toll on John's life until he decides to act. He shares with his wife his decision to return to Afghanistan as he feels he can never know peace with Ahmed in trouble. His wife is reluctant to send him back to the war zone, but agrees to take a second mortgage on the house to help him financially. John decides to enlist help from private contractors in Afghanistan. Before heading back, he meets with his superior, Vokes. Vokes plays John a recording where he had cursed at the U.S. government. However, he agrees to help John secure Ahmed and his family's visa if John can get them. John meets up with the private contractor Parker, but learns there will be a 3-day delay to his schedule due to an unexpected UN official's arrival. John, using the alias Ron K, doesn't want to wait, so he agrees to go on a solo mission and radio back when he needs help. Parker promises to help John when he locates Ahmed. First, John meets with Ahmed's brother, who still supplies drugs to the Taliban so they don't interfere with his business. John explains everything that happened and how he wants to take Ahmed to safety, prompting the brother to share Ahmed's location. To get there, John has to get a ride on a truck. On the way, the driver is stopped by 2 Taliban fighters who insist on investigating the back of the truck. The fighters are close to finding John, so he has no option but to eliminate them. John and the driver hide the bodies, not realizing that someone is watching them. The spy uses a camera to get John's face and sends it to the Taliban leader. He immediately recognizes John and asks the spy to follow the truck while he prepares reinforcements. John locates and approaches Ahmed, saying he has their visas. Meanwhile, Parker's computer expert discovers that Ron K is John Kinley. He relays this information to an astounded Parker. Parker knows a bounty has been placed on both John and Ahmed's heads, so he sends in a military plane to help them. Ahmed is delighted and grateful that John has come to his rescue. He asks his wife to prepare their few belongings, and they all get in the truck heading towards safety. John calls Parker with an update, and he promises to send reinforcements. Similarly, the spy calls the Taliban leader with updates, prompting him to send even more reinforcements so he can capture the 2 and execute them. The Taliban fighters start chasing after the truck, causing John and Ahmed to retaliate. Soon the group reaches a dam's tunnel. John asks the team to evacuate the truck. He then leaves a grenade under the truck and detonates it when the fighters approach. This move delays the fighters for a few minutes, allowing John's team to advance further on the bridge. Unfortunately, the fighters climb on other parts of the dam, resulting in another gunfire exchange. The more John and Ahmed eliminate the fighters, the more fighters arrive. The driver suffers a fatal wound, and John's ammunition runs out. As he sits in a groove on the bridge, John thinks about his career in the military and whether this is the end for him. Suddenly, an airplane approaches, and its weapon system quickly eliminates all the fighters on the bridge. After the threat is terminated, John, Ahmed, his wife, and his child are rescued. On the transport plane, John and Ahmed share a meaningful glance, each respecting and thanking the other for their roles in saving their lives. They swiftly get onto another plane to the U.S. now that Ahmed has a special immigrations visa. A subtext shows that the U.S. military retreated from Afghanistan in 2021 after being in the country for 20 years. Following the departure, the Taliban took total control a month later and started executing all the interpreters and their families for helping the U.S. Army. Several thousand are still in hiding. If you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and watch this video on the left as well.